Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
Hey, listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. This is Tanner.
This is Corey.
And this is Dave.
We are, I want to be like, dun, 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 because we're going to talk cybersecurity today. And I don't know if I know a lot about that.
All I know is it's annoying. The hacking, the all the emails we get, the two-factor authentication that Dave was just crying about.
Is that what we all do about this? We just complain?
Yeah. It's a pain point in our life. And
It's
then
a
when
pain
you do
point.
get hacked, then you're screwed.
And you really are. I wonder if we'll cover today fake accounts on social media.
Sure.
I
We'll cover anything. That's probably part of it.
wonder where that all goes. But listeners, thank you so much. We knew a little bit about this topic, but didn't realize it was as big a deal as you thought it was. So here we are chatting about it. You sent it to connect@farmforprofit.com. Thank you for those emails. Or you texted and left us a voicemail, 515-207-9640. That's still the hotline that we check in with. So thank you very much for doing that. Also, we see your comments, especially when you ask us if the entire show is as bad as the short. Or what was that one today?
Is the entire show this ridiculous or
what
or
it
just this short? But it was absolutely hilarious because if you go to their profile and look, it was a competing company to what the company or the product that we were talking about in the short was. So absolutely hilarious. So the correct response is, I don't know. You should go listen.
If you can't have fun with that, then you're in the wrong spot because we get to have fun with it. All comments matter, but we only want 5-star ratings.
Yes, absolutely. Only 5 on the rating side. Yep. You can give us all the bad comments you want. Those have
That's right. Dave, do you have any personal experiences with cyber threats?
Yes.
I think we all do.
Yep.
Anything from the text message that says, "Is this Jim?" And
Oh, I got 3 of those today. Like, hey, I didn't see you at the gym this morning. Like, yeah, because I didn't go to the gym.
no.
Delete and report.
I love to reply back to them though, and just get in the
That's what they want.
message with them, and I ask them all for a Google review. So I have it like queued up, copy paste, and get to befriend them. Oh, what's your name? What's your name? Blah 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 blah. They're gonna ask me for something. Tell you what, here you go. I will do that if you give me a Google review.
That's why he's got.
I wonder if our guest today is going to say that's a good idea. So let's get him introduced.
Meet Maya Cornheads, built better for over 40 years to power through down corn, high yields, and tough fields without flinching.
These durable, low-maintenance heads mean less downtime, less grain loss, and more profit per acre. They have the option for down corn attachments or direct-driven chopping. They ensure that your combine will move smoothly, fast, and full at all times.
Don't just harvest your fields, conquer them. Visit mayacornheads.com to find the dealer near you.
We've got Chris Sherman here, who is an announcer for the NFL. That wasn't Chris Sherman. Chris is with TechSupport.Farm, and he is to tell us a little bit about what we should and shouldn't do in the form of protecting ourselves online. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here. So,
What is
yeah,
it, Chris,
and
Chris Berman?
Yeah.
Berman's the football.
there you go. And then also in the NFL is Roger Sherman, and he's really not related to us either. So,
It was
yeah,
close.
no, I get those text messages as well. And I mean, the demented side of me kind of likes to go and mess with them too. So, kind of try to get to know them, and then I try to, spoof them as well. Get them to
Spoof
give me
them,
their
yeah.
credit card
So you
information.
can't get hacked by replying to them.
No,
Well,
no, you get
I don't know.
hacked
They want
by-
your-
okay. The important thing to understand is, like, in those instances, it's if you click a link, right? But they're trying to get you to, start coughing up some information about who you are, where you live, that sort of thing. So just turn the tables on them. Ask them how their day is. Where do they live? What are their financial needs?
Wouldn't
Do they need
Wouldn't
God to
Dave
bless
sending
them
them
with
to
$1,000?
Wouldn't Dave sending them to Whitaker Marketing give them a little bit of information about?
Well, that's just it. They can
You are?
find all that. I want people to find me. So like every social profile has my address, has my phone number. Facebook has my birthday. I mean, they're asking like, how old are you? Well, go to my Facebook profile. You can figure that one out pretty easy. It's not
Exactly.
like it's not like it's not publicly out there. Now, if they ask me for my social security number, okay, red flag. That's not publicly out there. But I think anything that I've ever commented, they could find with truepeoplesearch.com.
But do they know who they're texting, or is it just a number on a spreadsheet to send these random text messages to?
See, that's what's interesting, because in some instances they know who they're texting, and in other instances they don't. Okay, so like we've go ahead.
Have you ever had the one where they ask they want to switch to WhatsApp? So I have lots of them want to switch to WhatsApp.
Yes.
If you do that, immediately do the video instead of the call. They think they're picking up a call, and then it was Amber, who is some 60-year-old dude sitting on a freaking like what's up, Amber? It works,
okay, so they do want to go to WhatsApp, or they do want to go to a more unregulated channel, but that way they can upload videos, or they can upload they can do a lot more with WhatsApp. But the thought though about like the True People Search stuff, right? That information is out there, and so we've had instances where somebody's bank account got hacked, or their investment account got hacked, and they'd taken out some funds. But the problem is that not only was the attacker talking to them via email, but he was also messaging them, right? And then once we thwarted it and we started to kind of get in there and kind of take care of things, that's when that person really started sending some pretty nasty messages, via text, and we had to block them. But it's that concept that they will use multiple different platforms to get in touch with you, because that develops, some reputational, credibility with them, because they have multiple streams of being able to get in touch with you.
Well, we didn't realize how big of a deal this was, but right now agriculture is in the top 10 industries that is targeted by hackers. And we know as businesses get more sophisticated, as farms include more businesses, that crap, if we're in the top 10, we should probably figure some stuff out. So before we get too deep into this, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself? First, tell us a little bit about who you are, and then dive into the TechSupport.Farm.
Okay. Yeah. So my name is Chris Sherman, and I'm from Fargo, North Dakota, kind of the Lakes area, Detroit Lakes, Minnesota area. And I used to be a manager over at an ag construction company for a number of years. And what we would do grain sites, we do irrigation, we did, mill writing, that sort of thing. And it was on about the time that we started seeing a lot of technology starting to come online for ag, monitor your dryers and turn your pivots on and off, pump management, that sort of thing. And I asked them way back then, I said, what if somebody ever hacked this? And the engineers just kind of laughed and didn't think that it was really that big of a deal, and told me that I was kind of dreaming. But about, I suppose, probably, 10 years later, we started seeing some challenges in ag where, there were certain instances where people were getting hacked, especially in bank accounts and that sort of thing. So I branched out, I left, and having, kind of some business background and that sort of thing, I started TechSupport.Farm. And in the very beginning, nobody wanted to talk to me. And now here we are, 3 years later, and this is a very hot button topic for the entire industry. But yeah, in the beginning, it was everybody would laugh and tell me that, I wasn't going to last very long. I put on probably 40,000 miles on my truck in the first, year, just going from one farm to the next, trying to talk to guys about this. So, yeah.
Do you guys know? So top 10 industries targeted by hackers, but top 10 places to be in the United States on the 4th of July, Detroit Lakes, Minnesota.
It is
Zorba's
ironic
Pizza.
that you know that fact.
Zorba's
Yes.
Pizza.
Zorba's, yes.
Yep.
1,000,000%. Actually,
Dave went to high school.
Yep.
in that-
Moorhead, Minnesota. So I was not far from you there.
I was going to say, how the Playboy stats back in the 80s about
don't.
Detroit Lakes?
He's playing
Okay.
dumb. He knows those stats.
Yeah. Apparently back in the 80s, because this was, back when I was born, they said that Detroit Lakes was the best place for a man to be on the 4th of July. His odds of getting, yes. Yeah. It was significantly
getting
higher
hacked.
than anywhere else in the country.
Huh.
So,
Huh.
yeah.
Two
Well-
top tens today. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
So I
And
got a
we
question.
know where Corey's going to be.
Yeah, we know where he's going. So when I think of you're talking grain bin talking to it, or Corey and his hog setup, or a lot of acreages have Wi-Fi they want to send to the barn. And
Yep.
my tech guy lives in Fargo, ironically as well. He always tells me, he's like, Dave, you got to have better passwords. They'll log in through your camera, your barn cameras for your cattle, and then they'll hack your entire system. Does that really happen? Like, don't they have to be close to my farm for that to happen?
Not at all. Not at all. No. Every device is basically an open port to the internet if it connects to your Wi-Fi. And the reason why is because every device has its own IP address, and it's linking back into your network and your ecosystem. So really, in all reality, every time we add sensors, every time we add cameras, every time we add, a platform that manages dryers or grain bins or, irrigation or hog or dairy operation, whatever it is, all of those are little open windows and doors back into your network. And granted, everybody needs to understand that is a huge problem, right? The bigger problem is our mailbox. Like, if we're going to look at this like a house situation, we need to be thinking about, what the highest risk right now is, and it is by far the mailbox. And the reason why is because the person who goes and opens the mailbox and pulls it out is the guy that opens the wrong letter and clicks on the wrong link. And I'm talking about your email, right? Our farms have literally hundreds, if not thousands sometimes, of little openings, through devices that are connected to the network. But far and away, the biggest problem we have right now is our emails. Whether, it's clicking a link or, clicking on a DocuSign or any number of, different phishing attempts that happen, that is the number one killer right now. And the other thing that I guess I would just kind of draw, the analogy of is, farms are using Gmails, they're using Yahoos, AOL, Netscape emails, all of these ancient, platforms. And those are literally the equivalent of the mailbox on the country road, right? Anybody driving along can open that mailbox, see what's inside, read it, put it back in the mailbox, and nobody's the wiser. And that is what those types of emails are. Now, if you go with an actual corporate email address, Johnson Farms at johnsonfarms.com or whatever, that is now a corporate email, and that is so much more secure. It's very much more like the post office box at the actual post office. There's a lot more protections around it. So the number one thing that we've got to push. Yep.
How can you put AOL and Netscape in the same container as Google?
Well, okay.
Gmail
That
and
is true.
Netscape are like Dodge Pinto and Dodge Ram.
The irony, though, is that you would be absolutely shocked at the number of people. Go through your contact list and see how many people have AOLs. It is insane the number of people that have AOL emails. Or the old Hotmail. Yeah. But people need to understand that, those are consumer grade emails. They are not intended to be, the type that you run multi-million-dollar businesses off of. Do you really want to be, when you send that email, do you really want, your P&Ls and your balance sheets and all of your reporting to be going out and somebody just be able to look at it and get all that information?
Well, I think the biggest thing here is I think we're all pretty well aware we shouldn't be clicking on things in the email and this link or whatever. But what they have gotten really, really freaking good at is looking legit. Right?
Absolutely.
Like Dave, you said, DocuSigns or whatever. Someone might create an email that looks exactly like yours, or and
let me paint you a picture. Let's say you have, your new assistant comes in and they clicked on a link and it downloaded spyware. That spyware sits on a computer for an average of 60 to 90 days before they actually make any move, right? And then they hop to the computer that they see as valuable or the device that they see as valuable. And now they've sat there for so long, they've watched all of your keystrokes. They know, all your passwords and your bank accounts, and they watch your emails. They're monitoring things. And there's been instances where we've had where they will watch the emails and they see that, let's say there's a land deal going through. And they've been monitoring the bank, talking back and forth, the insurance company, you are talking, maybe it's grandpa that's in charge of it and the boys are a part of the conversation. And then they spoof the bank. and they pretend to be the bank, and they send you the DocuSigns for this property, and everything, their timing is literally picture perfect. And grandpa sends the DocuSign down to the boys, everybody signs their names to it, and money's gone. You wired your funds right out of your bank account to somebody else. You lose the money, you lose the land, you lose everything, right? And that has happened. That has actually happened. And this is, I mean, it's even so bad as they'll see who your vendors are, your most common vendors, and they'll duplicate invoices and they'll send them to you so that you pay that invoice again, because they know that your bookkeeper's not paying that close of attention. It's busy, it's harvest. Let's hurry up and cut checks and make people happy. And so next thing you know, you send out $40,000 checks. That kind of makes a dent in your year,
Yeah, when I was in banking, we had a lot of cybersecurity training, and then the IT department would run phishing scams or phishing tests.
Yep.
And most of them were based off of real examples. You're right. A CEO sends you a request to put a wire form together or whatever it is, and unless you looked at that email to say that it was not at DaveWhitakerFarms.com, it was DaveWhitakerFarms.com.
Yep.
It's just
or they misspell Whitaker.
Sure. Yep.
You
just
they add one more T in there. Yeah.
But I would tell you, when we talked to Chris the first time, came to us by connection to a good friend of the podcast, Bridget Riedel.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a fun phone call. That's why we no longer want you as listeners to email us at farmforprofitllc@gmail.com. We're not killing that email, but that's why connect@farmforprofit.com is the better route for you to go. It's fascinating when you get into those business suites. A simple move, relatively low cost, can provide an extra level of protection.
So
Absolutely.
we have a business suite where it's at wmgauction.com. So it's corporate email, but it's still run through the Gmail servers.
Correct.
If a farmer wanted to do that and put at hillabowfarms.com, he can still run it through Gmail to keep the platform, the connectivity, the phone mail, the etc. Is it that much better than just at gmail.com?
1,000,000%. So
it is.
Yes. Okay. So this is where it's kind of interesting, because I wasn't anticipating going this technical. If you get a domain and you own that domain, you can choose, do you want it to be a Microsoft, like an Outlook type deal where you live inside of the, Microsoft ecosystem, or do you want to live inside of the Gmail, Google system? Now, if you port your domain over to Google, you can now start what is called the Google Business Suite. And the Google Business Suite is a commercial grade email platform. It's pretty much the same concept as Microsoft. It has all of the same features. We can still plug in filtration software. We can still plug in outbound protection, all of those types of things. But since we're kind of on this topic, emails are very important to understand that it's no different than, like a pump, right? You bring your inbound is the stuff that you want to filter, and you want to make sure that you're getting all the phishing attempts and spam attempts out of there. And that's what we're pulling out of there with phishing or with filtration software. And it works for both Google and Outlook on commercial grade platforms. But then on the outbound, about a year or two ago, Google and Outlook came together, or Google and Microsoft came together and said that, all right, we need to stop the phishing and spoofing attempts from businesses. So for instance, if you have an auction company and you have vendors, right? What would happen when in a traditional Gmail account is somebody would get in, they'd see your customer list, and then they would turn around and they'd send out invoices on your behalf, and yet they would transfer the payment, the method of payment gets sent to them and not you. But you're ultimately going to be liable for that happening. And so
guys,
what
happened to me at Farm Progress Show is that exact thing. Is our auction company, we send requests for proposals, RFPs.
Correct.
And somebody sent that out to where all these guys got the same email at the same time, but everybody knows I talk a lot, and that they would know about it, not just an email. So my two-factor is, you would normally call Dave, why the hell did you send me this email? Is it legit? And it wasn't. It was totally malware.
So the concept here is that Microsoft and Google came together and they said that we need to have a new platform that for compliance of outbound emails, so that does not happen to you in the future. And again, that's only available on commercial platforms. It's called DMARC compliance, and so it protects your DNS, it protects your domain, and it makes sure that your emails going out are encrypted. And then it also prevents people from being able to spoof your email and actually act as your company. So. But again, everybody needs to understand, the one thing I would specify is it is important to get the commercial grade email. That is step number 1. Step number 2 is get filtration for the inbound emails. Step number 3 is outbound compliance.
So what about our situation or Dave's situation here? You got spoofed. We had an email that was a Gmail. Yep. Maybe we could have some malware on our computer that's just sitting there watching stuff. Now we have the G Suite. Like, how do we get rid of or know if we even got that crap on there?
So then that's where, we'll just kind of step all the way back, and everybody needs to understand that cybersecurity these days is no longer like McAfee or Norton antivirus, right? It's a significantly more developed concept. We look at it like we look at cybersecurity a lot like home security. Home security has everything to do with the deadbolts on your front door, cameras, a fence, maybe your dog. You've got smoke detectors. You've got CO2 detectors, your sump pump alarm. All of these things comprise your home security system. And so right now we're just talking about locking the mailbox. Now, if you're worried about the burglar actually inside of the house, now we need to start talking about cameras. And cameras in cybersecurity is what is known as EDR, or endpoint detection and response. And that is the software that's going to monitor your devices and make sure that there isn't, malware or spyware and those kinds of things on there. Yes, you need antivirus. Yes, you need, some of those other, traditional threat detections. But EDR, managed detection and response for networks, is really important. Firewalls are really important. But again, we also need to remember that, going back to the idea of a home security system, some pump alarms are not going to make sense for the guy living in a double wide trailer, right? So not all of these tools are going to be applying to every individual situation. And the important part to understand is that every farm is different, right? The same security posture that we would have on a dairy farm using a lot of robotics is not going to be the same as a farm that's got row crops and just using grain management and dryer telemetry and stuff like that. They're completely different situations, and we at TechSupport.Farm, we feel that it's very important that everybody understands. You just don't go out and buy everything. You need to be an informed, buyer and put on what actually makes sense for your operation. But the number one thing, go ahead.
Okay. No, you go ahead. Number one thing.
The number one thing is everybody has a mailbox, right? I don't care who you are, you're going to probably have a mailbox. And so start with a mailbox, then move to the front door.
Is that the most? So the most common is probably your email scams, or
yes.
Okay, what are some other common?
The next one is definitely the financial problems, where and this. Okay, so when we look at ag as why it's a top 10 industry being targeted, and there's several reasons. Number one is the age of the individuals that are in our industry. We have a lot of transition, challenges. And so therefore we see older generations sticking around, but the older generations are also the ones that are still in charge of the money. And so they fall, they are significantly more susceptible for falling prey to financial scams. So those financial scams can be anything from phone calls and text messages. They can be emails. They can be even letters in the mail. Any number of those types of methods of contact all pose a threat. And so financial scams.
Do you think that generation is more susceptible? Not even that generation. Let me reword that. This archetype of customer being agriculture, because we do more ACH payments, we do more wire transfers, we do more check and routing numbers than Apple Pay?
Actually, I would say that it's a little more nuanced than that. Number one, Yes, we do a lot more ACHs and we do a lot more wires, but we also do a lot more paper checks than any other industry. And check washing is a major issue. While that is not cybersecurity, that is a huge problem. But I think that what is really important, the nuance here, is that the amount of money going out is so much higher than any other industry.
I suppose
It is not uncommon to see somebody spend $140,000 this week on one item. Whereas in other industries, exactly. Yes. Whereas in other industries, I was talking to a client last night. We were on a Zoom, and he was like, "Yeah, I just sold whatever for $384,000. Got a check this morning."
It does make so much sense. Even if you gross $1 million and you're but you're barely scraping by, there's just so many more big transactions going back and forth. I mean, inputs and all that crap. Yeah.
So Chris, then you talked about the number one thing being the mailbox.
Yep.
From what I know, I'm going to talk a couple different things here, and maybe to our listeners, if we bring it basic, there's malware, there's spyware, there's phishing, there's spoof, there's spam, there's viruses. What the hell is the difference between all of them, and which ones do we need to be worried about in our mailbox?
All of them.
Okay, in your mailbox, you need to be worried about links and downloads. Inside the email, don't go clicking on any just random link, right? Hover your mouse over it. If it's on your mobile device, don't click on it. But if you're on a computer and you're looking at your email, put your mouse over the link and it will actually show you what the actual URL is, right? The hyperlink has two layers. It's got the first layer that shows you what it is, Amazon.com. And then if you hover your mouse over it, it will actually show you the destination URL. Don't go clicking on links if you don't expect the email. The next thing I would say is PDFs. PDFs are the largest conveyor of spyware, malware, and any other things. If you don't recognize the email, do not open any of the downloads that are inside of that email, especially the PDFs.
This is so hard because you'll send me like a PDF of what my next seed is, and I'll send people a PDF of the proposal. And then I even switched because people didn't want to do PDFs. I went to digital flipbooks, but then it's a link. And then they have to click the link, so they open the digital flipbook. Everything we do with email is a lot of sending invoices back and forth and farming.
So let's go back up one layer. So Corey sends you PDFs, okay? But you can look at the incoming email and the header of the email, and you can see that it says, from Corey at, and that email address. Double check that that's the appropriate email address, right? Also, scroll down inside the email and make sure that there's a feed, right? You can see his email, your reply, his reply, back and forth. You guys got into a disagreement, whatever. All of that stuff should be in there. If he just randomly out of the blue at 10:45 in the evening sends you a PDF, I'd look at that sideways, right? We had a vendor last night that emailed me. We had a vendor last night that emailed me at 12:38 in the evening, and I just messaged him back and I said, Simon, this is not normal behavior for you. Are you really working this late at night? And he laughed and he came back and he's like, yeah, it was an auto-generated email. I'm not working that late. But ask yourself, is it normal for this email to be arriving at 3:23 in the morning from Best Buy's customer service? We know that Best Buy's customer service is not that good. We have to have a little bit of discretion about these things.
I like to pre-schedule my emails to be whenever Tanner's sleeping, so it dings on his watch or his phone, so I can bother him.
Okay, the other thing is that Microsoft and Google have both come out with new things that if you're inside of a business platform and you start to send emails late at night, it will pop up a little thing and it'll ask you, would you like to send this during normal business hours? It's a great feature to have. That it's a great way to protect yourself going on outbound emails. On inbound, one thing too is let's say that Corey's sending you an invoice. You can set up a rule inside of your email to move all of his invoices to a different folder, one labeled invoices. Maybe not the recycle bin, but put them over to the invoice folder. That way, if somebody spoofs his email and tweaks the name and they misspell Corey or whatever, that will automatically show up in your inbox, and it's an automatic red flag.
Every one of Dave's emails would be red flag.
So what about my question is, what about if Farm for Profit was trying to get in somebody's inbox and we wanted to tell them, hey, we got a great product. We got a new seed company. We got a new carbon company, whatever it is. And we want to get into those, but they don't know us yet. How do we engage with brand new customers?
So this is fascinating because now we're really diving into some weird topics here. This is where outbound email compliance is so important. DMARC compliance is really a technical thing. There's a lot of back end stuff that goes in, but it also plays into what is known as your email authenticity score, I think, or email authority score. And essentially what it is it's the government's regulatory compliance framework to making sure that you're not considered spam. And so if you are DMARC compliant, and you are also being very careful about not blasting thousands of people at a time with nebulous stuff, and you have the proper unsubscribe, links in your email, and you have everything set up, you will have a significantly better chance of getting into their inbox, as opposed to if you're just firing it off from your Gmail, because that's going to also look suspicious.
Do you have that on the back end, like when you send a mass email to know?
Because we'll send out to 30,000 people, but we use services. The two big ones are Constant Contact and MailChimp. Yep. If you're using one of those systems, they are compliant and they will make sure that they send it out appropriately, and it has unsubscribe links and all that. But we can send 30,000 out at a time. But then on the back it says, what's your bounce back rate? What's your open rate? Where did people click on it? So then there's even a heat map of, did they click this button or did they click this button? Often when we say click here, that 90% of the time, that's actually where they click.
You should try one that says, this is spam.
Yeah. So this is also one spot where I would like to just point out that, this is getting into the technical weeds, right? Your average farmer does not have time to go and get himself a new domain and then get his Microsoft tenant set up or get his Google tenant set up and then make sure that he is DMARC compliant and his SPIF records and DKIM records are compliant, and making sure that his Constant Contact is set up properly, because that deals with your MX records inside your domain and all of this other crap, right? And all he's thinking about is, next year we've got to get everybody. We are so incredibly specialized in our world. I think that we live in a world where we almost have to recognize the fact that it's easier just to get a service that knows what you need and is going to take care of you on the back end and is pretty easy to communicate, and kind of let those things be passed off. We don't have to kind of like that idea of our grandpas always told us that we had to be sufficient, and we didn't need another person to help us out. We had to be independent and all of that. We're kind of out of that part of the world. It's good to be independent. It's good to be versatile, but we can't be good at everything, right?
What about, and that's what you do?
Yeah. Yes. We definitely take care of that on the back end. Yeah.
So I think before getting too deep into weeds, both you and Dave
already got deep.
I know.
Okay.
Both you and Dave have questions on the tip of your tongue, and I'm about ready to change directions.
Oh, I was going to change directions, but
I think it'd be valuable for us to continue sharing different examples so that way our listeners can be alert, right? We still want them to find a partner to work with. We want them to consider TechSupport.Farm. Bridget said a lot of great things. We've had great conversations back and forth. Obviously, already implemented some of the suggestions that you had to better protect farm for profit in our businesses. So we've talked about the phishing emails and our email inboxes as a number one threat we need to be careful of. There's a lot of different things that I didn't realize, like you could get into Dave's Wi-Fi system through his
barn cameras.
Your thermostats in your shop. Great example. Yeah.
Ecobee.
Your Nest cameras, your Arlo cameras. And then you got to think about, then we started diving into the idea of where is that data going? Who owns that data?
Right. That's what I was going to ask you, was all the data we have, whether it's certainly John Deere Ops is protected, but the rest of the data we have, how do we know who owns it?
So inside of each of the platforms, there is data privacy policies, and I would encourage everybody to go and read those and make sure you understand who controls and owns that data. When it comes to your cameras, and
that probably won't happen. But...
We have talked about having a platform where you can click and you can, on different, like Climate Field View or, JD Ops or any of these other platforms that we commonly use and give you risk profile ratings. The one thing that I would say is that we really don't want to go stepping on everybody's toes. There is a site, and I would have to go and look it up because I can't remember it off the top of my head. If you go plug in these different platforms, their web address into this site, it will tell you what their security score is, and it will tell you some of the issues it's run into, and then it will also talk about their data compliance. So I would have to look that one up. I haven't used it in a bit, but I would highly recommend that site. It's pretty non-biased.
Can't we, with the camera side of the world, you're going to get there, Tanner, talking about password policies. Well, most all Wi-Fi, every farmer says just leave it open. Of course, now we have WPA or WPA2, isn't it? WAP2, WAP rather, encryption to it. And that setting, most tech guys are going to set that up.
Correct. Yes. Now here's the deal. Going back to the cameras. Passwords are important, yes, because that protects your cloud access. But if you have NVRs on-prem or on-site, that is such a better option because for a number of reasons. Number one, think about you are physically controlling the data. You have that data sitting in your shop in its own little server, right? And it also limits the amount of data packets that are going up and down out of your internet. So, for instance, we've got one customer that has a parts building out in the middle of nowhere. And so what we did was we put in a wireless router, a Verizon wireless router. We set up the NVR, set up the camera system. But because we're storing the data on site, the data stays there. And the only access is any of the client's devices going in through it and accessing the camera. That way you're not storing that data up in the cloud. It eats up way less data. It's a lot more efficient of a setup for you. At the same time, it's on your site. It's protected. Make sure you have a solid password, and that's going to prevent people from getting in.
Harvest season is here, and so is your competitive advantage.
That's right. The Estes XPR3 concaves are a total game changer. Think one concave, all crops, no bands, no switching. From wheat to corn, soybeans, you're rolling non-stop. Backed by their patented technology with 250% more threshing surface, you get cleaner grain, fewer fines, and beast-level capacity, all without trading combines.
If you're interested, visit EstesPerformanceConcaves.com to upgrade your combine today. Estes XPR3, harvest smarter, faster, and better.
What is a solid password?
A solid password right now is a minimum of 12 characters long, and it has to have upper and lowercase letters, and it has to have numbers and special characters. And please do not repeat the same special character multiple times, like 3 exclamation points. Everybody's going to stop doing that because that does nothing for anybody. But minimum of 12 characters long. The other thing is, and this is hard to talk about like on air, but there's a process called munging. And munging is taking the same verbal password that you might remember. So we'll just say, for giggles, we'll say the word farm, right? And you can swap out letters and numbers and special characters in replace of letters. So the A could become the @ sign. The S could be, at the end of farms, could become a 5. The M could be a 3, right? It just shakes things up so that it's still a readable thing, but it's using special characters in place of numbers. It makes it easier for you to remember and harder to hack.
You guys know there's a password strength tool online that you can type in your password and tells you how long it would take to hack it?
Be careful, though. Because
watching to see what you type in.
Yes. There are those passwords.
What about, what about
loud,
all the guys that are not going to remember the @ sign, the this or that? So my dad remembers one thing, his birth date. That's it. What about stuff like 1Pass? So 1Pass, we have one password and
his password. We have a customer that, there's a John Deere tractor that is his favorite tractor, and I tell you what, if you want, you just know that model number, it'll get you into Yes.
But does that? I like where you're going with that. Just KeyPass or 1Pass.
KeyPass or 1Pass.
Yes.
Do you have a recommendation?
So what we use is the best one that we're using right now, especially for multi-factor and 2FA, is Authy. Microsoft Authenticator is a good one, and then 1Pass. I don't like 1Pass so much, but Keeper is a good one. There are a couple, but the whole concept is also protecting that platform, right? You can't just have that be your birth date to get into that platform. That has to have a really beefed up password. The other thing that I want everybody to understand is that when they send you the override codes or the big long codes, and it's like 150 digits and it's this massive text thing, save that. Put it in a safe place, put it in a safe, put it somewhere, because if you drop your phone, and I'll tell you, I had my phone, I was up in an attic and there was about 36 inches of insulation. I'm running cables and stuff and we're working on a project. Dropped my phone in the attic and I had it on silent because I was working. I was crapping my pants. I could not get into anything in my world because my phone was gone. And if you don't have those unlock codes that they give you, then you are SOL. You literally have to figure out how to break back into your stuff or start over. So when you set it up, make sure you have a strong password to get in and make sure you save those unlock codes.
Tanner, you were talking about ways that our listeners could get hacked. We haven't talked about social media yet. And where I'm going with that is somebody learned my social media, which I thought, who cares? Okay, they're going to post a picture on Facebook. Well, we do a lot of ads. So for all these direct-to-consumer doing Facebook ads, well, they have an account and a credit card attached to that account. So we got hacked once, and in the middle of the night, they took our Facebook My Business account for Ads Manager and became a member, created that they're the admin, and that I wasn't. They didn't necessarily kick me out. They just didn't give me privileges to be an admin anymore.
So you could watch.
So they didn't know. They didn't want it because it would say, you're being kicked out. They didn't want the flag going off that we were being kicked out. So we were still in there as a content creator or whatever, but we couldn't change anything admin wise. And they started creating ads in Bangladesh or somewhere selling shoes, but using my credit card. So they created ads under our account for that. So I was like, well, who cares? They made it into my Facebook account. Whoopty skipty. Well, there's a lot of like direct to consumer beef companies now that are advertising on Facebook. They might have that worry.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but let's think about it like this. So they were selling shoes somewhere. That's not the end of the world, right? But wait until they start doing something that tarnishes your name, right? That destroys your brand. Or they start doing things that are malicious, or they hold it hostage, and they start demanding a ransom for it, or maybe they've gotten into your computer and they've got compromising stuff and they're going to start leaking it on your professional pages. I mean, they can really, really hold your feet to the fire. And so, when it comes to your Google account, your Facebook account, your Snapchat, your TikTok, your iCloud account, all of those things. I said the 12 characters is a minimum requirement. Ours for any of our platforms is a minimum of 100.
What?
Yes.
I
And
don't even know words.
But
have
unless
100
the
letters.
platform says that it only takes up to 48 characters or some stupid thing like that, and it limits you, that's the only caveat. Everything else, why would you want to put that risk out there? You have to be absolutely. We don't even know what our passwords are. That's my point. Is like, you want to be so far ahead of the game. Why would you want to risk something that is your moneymaker?
Does the dark web or black web exist?
Yes.
Like, could I get logged into that and grab Corey's information to where I could, like grumpy old men style, shut his dryer off? Like, he turns his dryer on, starts walking away, and then I click the remote.
I have Wi-Fi on my dryer.
Shut your dryer off.
Yes. Actually, so what we can do now is we can do what we call dark web scans and monitoring, and we can monitor your profile, and we can figure out where your passwords are leaked. We can tell you what your passwords are that are leaked on the dark web. There's a great tool. It's called haveibeenpawned.com. And let me just double check this.
I wonder what Corey would be worth if I tried to pawn him.
Yeah, okay, haveibeenpawned.com. You can check your emails. and you can check passwords on there. And if you type in your password and it tells you how many times it's been breached and leaked on the internet, you might be shocked. Actually, no, you won't
not
be
going to
shocked.
do that. But back to what you were talking about, if they get access to these things and can potentially damage reputations, that's where these extortion campaigns come
Correct. Yes.
in.
And that's more for public, facing, public media, influencers. But really, if you think about it, let's look at there's a place called Crystal Valley Cooperative in Mankato, Minnesota, right? They were hacked. I think it was September of 21, and their entire cooperative was locked out first week of harvest. They had trucks lined up with, trying to dump, and they were held up. They had to pay the ransom because it was a crime of opportunity. And ironically, we aren't dealing with people that don't understand the industry. They study you as the individual, and they study, American farming trends and schedules and that sort of thing.
That hacker knew more about ag than some of these marketing firms knew about.
Correct.
Ag.
I mean, to what end though? So if it's a ransom deal and you pay it, like, how does it what guarantees you're going to give it back and then not do it again?
That is also a problem. But let's just take a step back. Ag is one of the top 10 industries, but why? Okay. Ag is a top 10 industry that's being targeted for a number of reasons. Number one, we talked about was the demographic, right? We see a lot more older generation sticking around. Number two is the fact that we have this keys in the visor mentality. Everybody understands that, we're all trusting. We leave our doors unlocked. We leave our keys in the vehicle. We just kind of have this mentality and everybody's safe, right? I can't tell you the number of times we leave our keys in the equipment out in the field. But the problem is that we're allowing that to translate to our online presence. Again, Johnson Farms Wi-Fi is Johnson Farms, and you're not going to believe it, but their password is Johnson Farms. It's an issue. And then it also permeates into the idea that agriculture is the industry that has so much money that's going through it. And yes, our bottom lines might be thin, and we might have razor thin margins, but we have so much capital that's going through. We're low hanging fruit. We are literally there's so much money that's available to be taken that it's a very tempting target for hackers. And then the last portion of this that really people don't ever think about is agriculture is one of the less regulated industries in the United States. And because of that, we are not held to the same standards that other industries are held to, whether it's data protection, whether it's, even our workplace safety, kind of things. But at the same time, we are forced to be one of the most transparent industries. And therefore, when, you can go to USDA and you can look at all the subsidies, you can see how much money people have received. You can see, all their contact information, all of that kind of stuff. H2A program is a great example of a public-facing government database that is literally published all around the world. And the problem is that when we take a step back and we think about that, guys are using their personal cell phones and their phone numbers as contact info. They're using their personal emails that are not protected. They are using their home addresses. And right there, any sort of threat actor is automatically building a beautiful little personal identifying profile about that individual. So he can literally see that Farmer Brown had this, this is his phone number, this is his email, this is where he lives. And he goes to the government database and he realizes this guy made $943,000 in subsidies last year. Now we know where he lives. We can go to Onyx Hunt and Onyx Maps, and we can figure out all the land that he has. We can figure out what he specializes in. And now we can be like, hey, we're going to send him an invoice and see if he pays it. Or we're going to send him an email as a bank in the area, and we're going to see if he clicks the link. I mean, all of these things, this is social engineering to the highest degree. And the problem is that we are so inherently trusting that we click on it. And then at the same time, we also have our older generations that are more susceptible to these things. Because it's not that difficult to pull that, past them. Because it's plausible, right? And then at the same time, there's a big cash reward and they know it. They know that it's out there. They see it because we publish it. And I just want everybody to stop and ponder something. The USDA said that there was 1.88 million, almost 2 million farms in the United States. And I want everybody to stop and think about what your operating loan for the year looks like. And then just on average, let's multiply that times 2 million. And that would tell you how much is literally out there for grabs. And so it's a very, very tempting financially lucrative opportunity for threat actors. Now, backing up as to why they would do this, it's for money, but then at the same time, it's also warfare. We all know that, taking over a food supply is like one of the number one ways to choke off your enemy's, ability to survive. And we're seeing that over in theaters of conflict around the world, whether it's Ukraine and Russia or over in Africa or any of these different places, we are seeing cyber attacks on ag. And the things that they're doing are insane. But that's in a theater of conflict or a theater of war. In a traditional sense, ag is just a lucrative, low-hanging fruit because we are adopting technology at a faster rate than anybody else. We are forgetting to lock our windows, and we're forgetting to put deadbolts on the doors. That's what it boils down to.
Makes me want to go back to paper checks and flip phones.
Yes, and there are guys that are doing that. We've had guys that call us and just kind of run through what they're doing. They're not using emails. They're using paper checks. They're not doing online banking. They're not doing any of that. We've had some of the largest producers of different commodities that have come out and said that they are going to be backing off on the technology. They're not going to be having remote telemetry. They're going to be scaling that back because it's easier just to give somebody a map to run around and turn things on and off. Because in the event of a compromise, the stakes are far too high. I mean, think about, let's just go to irrigation. A quarter section of potatoes is almost $1 million, right? And if you have multiple quarter sections that are all being irrigated and all being managed on the same platform, and somebody takes that hostage, if it's the middle of July, your potatoes need water and they hold it for 72 hours, that's crop loss. Dairy. Great example, on-prem servers that manage your robotics. And we physically do not have the manpower anymore to be managing herds that size. We rely on those systems. And if those are compromised, your 24-hour milking operation comes to a grinding halt.
So how do we build in a parachute?
Well, everybody needs to stop and evaluate their situation. Threat modeling is an absolute critical piece of this. I guess I've in relation to dairy, I've thought about the idea that farms need to get together in their area and have operating agreements between them that basically they say that if one of us gets compromised, we will all pitch in X amount of labor to help that person. Kind of like the NATO idea, right? Where you can physically get through before or during that crisis. Again, this extends far outside of just cybersecurity. What if we had a power outage, right? What if JD Ops goes offline and we can't start our equipment anymore? What if, what are these scenarios and how do we continue to be in business? Because if we haven't thought about them and we don't have the policies and procedures and plans in place, we're screwed. So,
Just seems like in this day and age, we should be able to prevent this on a more of a level than you having to go. I don't know, or can we hack the hackers? Can we go after them as the government? And
we do. We do hack the hackers, and we do go after the hackers. And last what month is it? It's November, so it would have been, I don't remember. A couple months ago, I was in DC and I literally did a talk to a bunch of kids at multiple universities that were in cybersecurity, and they were, their focus is on ag. And this is one of those things is, protecting those infrastructures. Now it's at a higher level, right? It's from a manufacturer level standpoint. So, like John Deere has its red program, or I can't remember what it's called, but basically white hat hackers try to find the vulnerabilities in their platforms. But everybody needs to be involved in this. Everybody needs to be thinking about this. You need to think about your farm, what your vulnerabilities are, and what you're going to do in the event of.
So if we're using other devices like Starlink,
Yep.
somebody could hack
Yes.
Starlink and know that our data packets are going forth. What about Deer cameras? Deer cameras, it's Wi-Fi to our cell phone signal to our phone that's sending stuff back and forth.
Yeah, there's a thing called SIM swapping, and that's absolutely, a problem. But the one thing that I would say is that's literally, that is a minimal risk, right? The bigger risks are, the SIM cards that you're using on your dryers, or the SIM cards you're using inside of your irrigation systems, or some of these other remote telemetry, systems that are more integrated into your network. That's essentially the SIM card on your deer cam or your trail cam is just sending you packets of information. It's going to send you a text. That's all it's really limited to, right? It's not a data driven, what would you call it, plan.
Got it. So when do we take this a different route? When do we play the card that we just don't care anymore? So what I'm going to give the example is flying a plane. You could die flying a plane. You could die driving your car. You could get hacked any day of the week. If my wife thinks about flying on a plane, she just sits there and gets so nervous that she won't want to fly on a plane. We still have to farm. So if we get so nervous about agriculture security and we're sitting here chewing our fingernails off because we're so worried about getting hacked, we don't get anything done. So when do we just say, screw it, I'm just going to go for it? There's only 1 in a million people that die on a plane, so only 1 in a million people are going to get hacked.
The one thing that I would say is you're absolutely right, because we can't let fear freeze us. And this was not intended to be fear. It's just intended to really open everybody's eyes to the bigger problem. But when you get on the plane, what do? We automatically put on our seatbelt, right? I mean, that's number one thing that we do.
I never think it's going to save us.
I mean,
but you do
in
it,
theory, as long as the stewardess lets you. But it's that concept that we take basic provisions, but at the same time, we also, I think that sticking our heads in the sand is not necessarily the right approach. I think we need to educate ourselves on the risk, and then we also need to find simple, straightforward, actionable ways to protect ourselves. It doesn't mean you have to go and reinvent the wheel. It just means that, hey, if I hired 10 kids this year, to help out during harvest, I'm not going to go hand out dryer logins to all of these guys, right? We're not going to go handing, out these admin permissions to these people. There's simple tools that can help you control access to things and protect you. There's simple things that we can do that can mitigate a lot of that risk. It's basically the Pareto principle, right? We can take a little bit of action to mitigate 80% of the risk. And I think that that's what, we really need to do in ag. This is not unique to this industry. Every industry grows, incredibly fast, and then we stop and we think, oh, hey, why didn't we put front doors and windows on this place? Why didn't we put locks on things? And I think we're at that point in ag. The only problem is that we're growing still so much faster than any other industry, especially from a technological standpoint, that we really need to hurry up and catch up. And go ahead.
No, keep going.
And from a top-down perspective, I can tell you that, industry leaders and from more like a policy perspective, we're looking at what's called security by design. And security by design is bringing products to the marketplace, in the future that actually has security built in for you, so you don't have to worry about that. Because for too long, we've been bringing products to the marketplace that we have developed and, tech-savvy farm kids have developed to solve a problem, but nobody actually thought about the security side. Now we're looking at it from a different angle of like, hey, let's build security into this so that it's safer for, the consumer to actually use on a day-to-day basis.
There's a lot to consider, and it's a good thing that TechSupport.Farm exists because there's no way we as producers, we as ag business are going to be able to handle or even have the time to manage all of these things.
The other thing that I would like to throw out there is that this goes beyond cybersecurity. This also goes to the idea that everybody has so much technology on their farms, but not all of us can access that technology. Going back to your idea about Starlink, we've got guys on the West Coast that, live in the really, really hilly, parts of Washington State. And so cell signal is not something that they have access to. And so we've done things like Starlink in order to help them maximize their use of technology that they've already invested in with, like John Deere and Climate Field View and stuff like that. And so from that standpoint, I think guys need to ponder, are you getting as much out of your technology as you're paying for it? And stuff like connectivity and getting Wi-Fi from one barn to the next, or cameras and security systems, all of those kind of play into what we do. And that is also a major need that I think that ag needs to address, is the ability to capitalize on the technology that we're paying for.
You look like you're ready to say something.
I was. I mean, so I got this actionable steps here, and I know we've talked about several of them. I just wanted to make sure we got through them all. We've talked about the password policies, the email domain there, but there's some other ones here. You got network segmentation.
Yes. Network segmentation is dividing up your network so that, well, number one, making sure that all of your networks are the same network. Okay. So when you've got, let's say you've got internet over at one shop and internet over at the other, and they start to overlap, but you have the same logins and the same credentials for those, that's a broken up network. You want to make sure that your network, all of your devices are all connected, so it's on the same network. So when you go from one place to the next, you're seamlessly transitioning from just one location to the next. But segmentation deals with having employee access versus actually having the company access.
Okay, and then you talked about access monitoring, not giving everyone the keys to the dryer, basically. Backups. We haven't really talked about backups at all.
Backups, you have the option of on-prem versus on or in the cloud backups, and making sure that those backups are happening on a consistent basis. Sometimes that means fluctuating. Like during tax season, you're going to want to be doing backups more frequently. During growing season, maybe it's not so much of a deal. Different times of the year, but making sure that those backups are happening and verifying that they are working backups. Because one of the biggest problems with backups is you find out that they're not even viable, that they were screwed up. So making sure you're backing up and testing those backups.
Okay. And then the last one on there was just educate the team, which is, I think, obviously, if you went there and you were worried about it, now you just got to tell everybody else, hey, this is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We were joking on our call with Chris that I got an email from a partner in the past for Farm for Profit, and it came with a request for proposal and a link in it. And I deleted, but then I called Rachel and I said, hey, don't click on this, delete. And she was giving me so much shit for it. But that's what you got to do. Everybody has to be aware, because it just takes one person on your team to create that issue.
Yes, absolutely.
So walk us through what it say I'm worried about it. I know I needed to get you on my team, Chris. Like, how does that happen, and what would that onboarding look like?
So what we have is we have a program called Fence Check, and that's on our website. Basically, you click on Fence Check, and then you can go through, answer a couple questions. It's more than a couple questions, but answer some questions about your farm, and that will help us develop a profile for you. And in response, you get a packet that gives you the actionable steps that you can take. And then if you would like us to give you a quote, that also preps you so that we have all the information we need to give you that quote. And onboarding is pretty straightforward. It doesn't really matter where you are in the contiguous US. If we sign up a contract, we will come out, we'll do the installs, we'll get to know you guys. We do a security training with all of you and your neighbors. and kind of really, set everything up so that you're good to go. And then what that does is that gives us a platform so that if you guys do have problems in the future, maybe a computer's not working, you're having network issues or things like that, we can just jump on remotely and help you guys out, provide that service in real time as opposed to waiting for days. So
what kind of cost is something like that going to be too? I mean, obviously every farm is different.
Yes, every farm is different, but the average farm is going to spend between $5,000 to $7,000 a year on cybersecurity and IT.
Which sounds pretty cheap compared to losing 3 sections of potatoes or
correct. Yes.
Having somebody hold your grain dryer hostage.
I should also throw out there that our services are warranted for $500,000. So any customer that has, our package comes with a $500,000 warranty, and then our customers are also entitled to a $1 million flat rate cyber liability policy.
So rather than do that, why not? Why don't we just buy an insurance policy? Costs $1,000. We get $4 million in cybersecurity policy, and then we don't even worry about it and just wait for insurance to pay it out.
So
other than the downtime. I mean, let me be the devil's advocate.
Here's the ironic part about this. In order to get a cyber liability policy anymore, you have to have services like ours, or you have to have an IT team that's implemented those steps. You have to do these things in order to get it.
Can we buy up on those if we're a bigger operation or something?
Yes, 100%. Yes. But it's just a flat rate starting out.
Okay. Well, I've got 3 rapid fires if Tanner will let me.
I will after I finish.
He's getting antsy.
Sharing. It's not cybersecurity, but also while we're on the topic of scams and being taken advantage of, I also want to remind our listeners that there's those phone scams that go around, whether it's you're getting a call saying that your nephew, your grandson, your whatever is broken down on the side of the road and needs you to wire them $150 to get home, or their plane got trapped while they're on vacation, or they're in jail. One of the most recent ones is someone poses as being the deputy sheriff, knows the information about you, says you missed a tax payment, missed jury duty, and there's a fine that goes with this, but if you pay right now, they will drop that and not worry about taking you to jail over this. There's a lot of threat, a lot of high impact that comes through these calls, and most of the time they want you to take cash out of your bank, go to an ATM that can transfer in the form of Bitcoin, and then it's gone. There's nothing you can do about it. So it's those exist. Make sure your grandparents
and I would also
understand.
I would also like to put it out there that the phone calls are a major problem, right? The number of times that we've had customers that call us and tell us that, hey, I just got a call from Wells Fargo and they said that somebody tried to open a credit card in my name. And I said, that wasn't me. And they said, okay, well, we need to secure your account. Can you give us your username and password and what's your social security number? Things like that. Don't answer those questions. If somebody said that they tried to, open a credit card in your name, ask them for their contact information, get their name, their phone number, and their extension, and then you call your local branch. And you ask yourself, do I even have a Wells Fargo account? I mean, those kinds of things, right? And don't give out any sort of information. Another one is think about the urgency that's behind it. Any sort of spam or phishing attempt is going to tell you that, hey, your LifeLock account is going to renew within 24 hours unless you take action. That right there, tell them to go pound sand, right? Because A, you don't even have a LifeLock account. 9 times out of 10. Number 2, if you do have a LifeLock account, go log into it and go to your account settings and see, is it really up for renewal? We need to recognize that if there's a sense of urgency behind it, walk away. If they're telling you that they need information, walk away. And then obviously return through vetted channels, whether it's through your local branches, contacting somebody, even call us. I mean, don't hesitate to call us and tell us what you're up against, and we can vet it for you. That is a service that we would gladly provide. But yeah, don't ever feel like you're painted into a corner.
All right, rapid fire.
Just make sure to
Either way, you're good.
All right. I've always heard like Apple, Microsoft, whatever. Is there an actual safer brand to have or a more secure brand? when talking
No,
technology?
there is not. No.
Well, my iPhone is way safer.
It's way
Okay,
easier.
well, here's the deal. Ferraris are one of the least broken into vehicles. But it's because there aren't that many Ferraris on the road. And hence why Apple is also one of the least broken into systems, because, that it's not nearly as widespread as Microsoft operating systems for
Okay.
Android.
Did you ever work in the dark web or on that side of things? And my preface of this is I feel like someone should to know the threats, like, right?
I do understand the dark web. I have accessed the dark web. And I have done, yes, remediation work in the dark web, yes.
Okay.
But I was never doing anything bad.
If we give
I was
you,
gonna say,
if we
'cause there's
give you a list of a couple people, could you help us out?
Well, I almost feel like, okay, so on a serious note, I almost feel like, okay, we're going after these people and all that. Like, sounds like we need to raise the crime.
Bounty on their heads?
Yeah, like this should
Yes.
be death penalty, right? Like it should be treated as capital if you are literally ruining other people's lives.
Yep.
You know, and
Yes.
maybe it would be a little bit like, well, better not. You know, instead of they're just gonna slap me on the wrist, or they'll never catch me because they, whatever.
So we do have partnerships with companies that are coming up with some seriously ingenious tools. We have one company that developed this thing. It's basically like a honeypot or a pheromone trap, right? And it's software that sits inside of your network, and it acts like it's a prized machine, a server, or something that's really valuable. And when threat actors jump from one device to the next, they get stuck inside of it. And then we can pull all of their credentials. We can see their IP addresses. We can see all that information, and then we can go after them. But does that make sense for every farm? No. I mean, it's a pretty heavy duty capital outlay.
Okay. And the last thing I had was, I know you mentioned before we got on the cameras, you got a webinar coming up.
Correct.
Just wanted to give you some time to talk about what that's about, when it is, and how people can access that.
Yeah, so we are going to be doing a security webinar for farms and agribusinesses. We're probably going to be doing like the second or third week of January, and it's going to be like an hour and a half webinar. We haven't quite nailed down a date yet, but if you click on our website, we will definitely have that link up there to sign up for it. It is free. It'll be absolutely no cost to attend, and I would encourage strongly that bring your spouses and your employees and stuff like that, because we're going to go through, we'll dissect emails. We'll look at how to protect yourself against phishing scams. We'll look at text messages and phone calls. We go through password protection. We go through backups and disaster recovery situations. We really go through the entire gamut of actionable items, kind of like what we've talked about previously.
Good. Well, yeah, so listeners, we weren't intending for this to scare you. Like that was not the point. But the fact is, all the things we discussed are real threats to your operation. Excited to have met Chris. I think we'll touch base with him again, maybe in a little bit of a different element coming up this spring. Excited to follow up on that too. We went through the fence check on ourselves with through TechSupport.Farm to be able to give a little bit of that insight. It is a process anybody can do, and is certainly something that'll be helpful. But hopefully we shed some light on a couple of things here, especially during the holiday season. I know everybody gets busy and everything gets vulnerable, and maybe we don't pay as close attention to what's going on. So glad that we could share that with our listeners. We appreciate your time, Chris.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me.
You bet. Listeners, as always, you're our favorites. So until next time, have a good one.
Farm for Profit Podcast.